Hi everyone, this is Jijuai. Today I'm bringing the operator Hindsight for Entelechia. She's a relatively simple operator, so let's dive straight in. Entelechia is a 6-star Reaper in the guard class. Straight out the archetype, cannot be healed by allies, attack deal AoE damage, recovers 50 HP for every enemy hit during attacks up to block count, so 2 by default. We touch on the archetype with Executor Altar, so here's a short review. They are Amity, attacks all enemies in range, which is different from the hit count equals block count from Centurion and Crushers. However, the healing instance cap does depend on their block count. The archetype is designed for lane holding given their AoE nature. They are efficient in dealing with quantity, but when it comes to quality enemies, well, let's just say they're relatively low DPH, aren't that equipped for the job. They also want the target count for more sustain. Entelechia's Talent 1 attacks steal 75 max HP from the target, caps at 1350, and deals 200 odds damage per second to the target for 5 seconds, 250 at potential 5. The steal happens before calculating damage, and it doesn't affect equipment, damage instance-based enemies, and her heart candle in skill 3. Odds DOT doesn't stack, but instead gets its duration refreshed on a new trigger. It doesn't trigger the talent again, obviously, nor does her trait to get extra healing, and is not affected by the guaranteed damage from her heart candle. It's a way of weakening enemies. Effectively, you are dealing 75 extra true damage to targets every hit, and it shreds a bit faster with skill 2 and 3. Normally, it'll take 18 attacks for the full steal. It does give her a higher HP pool. At full steal, that's 3,930, so about 52.3% increase from her base HP. The important part here is that the talent also introduces Odds DOT to better tackle high defense enemies and more significantly damage instance-based enemies. Combined with her AoE nature, it lays the foundation of her effectiveness against these gimmicks. Talent 2, when HP drops below 25% for the first time, immediately recovers 50% of max HP, 55% at potential 3, and reduces physical damage taken by 10% afterwards, 15% at potential 3. This talent will prevent fatal damage from happening once before it's triggered. Basically, it's impossible to one-hit KO her, and it does reset after redeploying her. This is a one-time revival talent, similar principle to Blaze, the base Blaze, but without the HP lock and instead grants physical damage reduction as survival bonus. But honestly, that bonus is far from impactful, not to mention it's not working on arts damage when the archetype has 0 resistance. So yeah, not reliable enough against consistent damage. Entelechia comes with the Reaper X module. Base effect increases the self-healing from 50 to 60 per instance, and upgrade goes to her talent 2. The HP recovery from triggering revival is increased by 35%, and the physical damage reduction bonus up by 10%. Base effect increases the HPH, healing per hit. Considering it's the only source of sustain, I think it's crucial to have this perk. Upgrades give her more HP back on revival, but honestly, other than buying some more time staying alive, it's not very significant. It may be 15-10 seconds, or it may just be the matter of another 1 or 2 hits. Higher physical damage reduction is okay-ish, but if you compare this to the 25% Sanctuary from Solo Blade X base, its value is still questionable, especially when considering the cost. So clearly, this is a full-on survival-oriented module. What bothers me a lot is that both of her talents plus this module puts enormous emphasis on her max HP. It gives a one-time immortality effect and more damage reduction, but nothing about her real self-sustain other than the base effect. It's like changing from a plastic bottle to a water tank, but you're still filling water from a dripping tap, and it kinda shows in practice. And that is actually one of the pressing problems with the design. Tons of efforts on giving her better survival, and they just don't work in the end, which is sad. This module is like when we discuss Solo Blade Y. Revival is good, and it does give her some bonus for reviving, but a lot of the time, if the enemy can defeat her once, it's very likely that they can defeat her again. My recommendation is level 1 for the base sustain. In some marginal cases, the extra HP on revive and 10% more damage reduction may help, but if you're not going to integrate her into your runs, I'd say upgrades are not necessary. We've talked about her survival problems with talents and modules. I guess it's time to find out about the offensive part. My skill recommendation is Skill 2 over Skill 3 over Skill 1. Skill 2 is perhaps our most unique offer. Full map 3x3 AoE damage support with high hit count, fast cycles, and can be applied on summons, like an extension of her hands, and empowers Helidrops. Skill 3 has attack and attack speed bonus for better DPH and HPS, but only slightly better. Deals guaranteed damage to tackle high defense or damage reduction enemies, also continue to do damage when they leave the range, but this skill is plagued with design problems, which I would elaborate later. Skill 1 is the OG Ripper Power Strike AFK skill. It was compelling back in time, but it's starting to lose edge in the current meta. Skill 1, the attack of the next attack increases to 175% and strikes twice. This is a 0/2 offensive recovery skill. Stats as shown below. Like I said, the HP steal in Talon 1 is effectively extra damage, but I didn't include that in the skill stats in this video. Cycle DPS is okay, part of them are the Arts DOT, but DPH is just mid. Compared to the same format from the Pluma and Highmore skill 1, this skill has a slight attack scale upgrade, so from 165% to 175%. It's for AFK, clearly, but with AFK options growing, the low DPH nature of Reapers have led to the skill being less outstanding. Sure, it still works. It works great when there are a lot of mobs due to its AoE nature. If you compare it to skills like LP and Skill 2, it has the range advantage slightly and no need for warm-up, but that's about it. This skill can only go so far, and it's not in the same place as it was back 3+ years ago. Skill 2 stops attacking and summons Bloody Scythes around Entelechia and one other ground unit to slash at all surrounding enemies, dealing 195% attack as physical damage every 0.5 seconds. This is a 15/20 12-second manual skill. DPH is slightly higher than Skill 1, and one scythe can do about 42k damage with a 3565 DPS. If you manage to squeeze enemies between two scythes, you get almost double the damage because the Arts DOT part doesn't stack. Let's first explain how the scythe works. It targets the last deployed ground unit on the field that Entelechia has vision on. For this skill, vision is only relevant in the upcoming Necross event gimmick so far, so don't worry too much about that part. By ground unit, it includes friendly summons that can be targeted by enemies, so it's not just operators, but also all the summons that are not equipment types. In practice, do keep an eye out for deploy orders to avoid giving the scythe to unintended units. The scythe deals damage to enemies in a 3x3 grid, and that damage sources back to Entelechia, so both scythes can trigger her trait and Talent 1, which is interesting because it doubles her HPS potential. If we do the math, every hit heals for 60, that times the block 2 cap, times the 2 hits per second, times 2 scythes, means that she can reach 480 HPS per second, and that's considerable sustain. One extra niche is that the scythe can deal damage to aerial enemies when it's applied to a target currently taking off. This is relevant for Sky Rangers and Laser Altar in the future. Now, pros and cons about this skill. Pros, it's a flexible damage skill. Put it on a FRD or summons, generally units that have low DP, suited for Helidrop to strengthen what they can do on deployed, while Entelechia casts it from a safe distance. Effectively, that's holding 2 links at once. Of course, you can also opt to give it to a close-by unit so that enemies coming at her takes the damage from 2 scythes at once. The skill has a fast cycle, 20 seconds is really comfortable. It deals high hit count per second as well. 2 hits per second per scythe, plus the Arts DOT, 5 hits in 1 second. Combined with the pinpointing range and AoE nature, this skill is oppressive against damage instance-based enemies. Entelechia gets the highest HPS possible from this skill. It's still situational though. She still needs the target count to reach the cap, unlike Executor, where he gets to squeeze more healing out of one target by the triple healing bonus from skill 3 and his double hit talent. Finally, this is an attack scale skill with 24 hits, so with attack modifier buffs, the damage can go up significantly, especially noticeable in IS. Cons lies in two major aspects. One, the rather low DPH, doesn't handle high defense enemies well enough. Two, no benefit from attack speed, and it's honestly quite frustrating because this skill has great value in modes like IS, but choosing this skill simultaneously gives up the benefit of attack speed, and it basically pins her to a secondary damage role, which is a little bit of a pity. Skill 3, attack range expands into spread shooter range, attack plus 135%, attack speed plus 100, immediately summons hot candles tied to up to 3 ground enemies within range with the highest HP. Attacks against hot candles deals at least 35% attack as damage. Hot candles inherit 60% of the corresponding enemy's current HP. When attacked, that enemy will lose the same amount of HP as the hard candle, and hard candles only take damage from Entelechia. This is a 22/30 20-second skill. Stats are found in the table below, and similar to skill 2, it has the potential to do double damage if the target and the hard candle is being attacked by Entelechia at the same time. So for a 20-second duration, 30-second cycle skill, the potential damage can go up to as high as 130k. So the key appeal of this skill is the candle mechanic. It creates a clone of the enemy, which utilizes Reaper's AoE nature to effectively double every hit. Damage dealt via the candle ignores all sorts of enemy mechanics like damage reduction, dodge, barrier, or shields because it only copies their defense and resistance stats. Like shown in the stats, hitting the candle only would guarantee about 21k damage. The candles are also stationary, so this clone will continue to transfer damage to the actual target even when they get out of range. And this concept does work best against enemies with high max HP plus defensive mechanics, be it damage reduction or dodge or others, that is not extremely out of scale with their defense stats. And the reason I emphasize that has to go with the design problems of this skill. First, the HP mechanic of hot candles. It only inherits 60% of the target's current HP, so it will always have less HP than the target, and due to not inheriting damage reduction and having the guaranteed damage, sometimes the candle dies significantly faster than the target itself. And this gets worse as the actual target drops to lower HP. The newly summoned candle will become increasingly flimsy, sometimes dying a few seconds into the skill, and without a candle, this skill literally is just bigger range, higher attack, and higher attack speed, completely losing its tactical value. So if the target doesn't die in one skill, chances are that the subsequent uses of this skill will yield much worse results. This is especially evident and frustrating against enemies who have low max HP or defense and high damage reduction. They even managed to get you a glimpse of it in the mini-story trial stage. These 3 running trucks only have 17k HP, 800 defense, but 90% damage reduction. The candles are slain in a few hits, but it still takes 2 to 3 skill use to even kill these trucks. Second is the limit to how many candles you can spawn. While I understand the potential problem of spawning a lot of candles at the same time, it just feels kinda off to only have 3 targets get the double damage for an AoE operator. And finally, the self-sustain problem. Spawning in candles do help with increasing target count, but that's still hitting the 2 cap right away. Attack speed helps to bring the HPS to 180, but that's it. Her talent 1 gives her a higher max HP pool, but the sustain just doesn't keep up, especially when you're expecting tougher enemies where you would use this skill. In summary, Entelechia is a AoE lane holder, but her key strength turns out to be dealing with damage instance-based enemies. She has a set of survival talents, but no bonus for actual sustain, so like I said, a water tank filling water from a tap, and may not be able to keep up with the leak. The arts DOT is solid though, works well with her AoE nature similar to Ascalon. Skill 2 provides full map damage support and high hit frequency. Skill 3 is designed to create double DPS on targets and tackle high defense or damage reduction enemies, but the carry out of that concept is questionable. Her most notable performance so far has been pretty recent. She's a solution against the infesting amount of damage instance-based gimmicks in IS-6. Although not irreplaceable, I'd say she's much more viable than before. For daily ratings, I have her at 5. I think as a lane holder, at least she gets the mob reaping part right, and skill 2 is a decent surprise and great addition to Hala dropping. That said, the range, the DPH, and her sustain are far from being great, and struggles against both defensive and offensive enemies, which with Executor Altar at least you get to choose between skill 2 and 3 for different situations. For advanced, I have been a bit on the fence with this one, so for now I will settle with 4. Her main appeal again is the ability to counter damage instance gimmicks. In the past IS themes, her performance is rather poor. That has to do with her being empty, lacks the carry potential of a damage dealer, and her limited benefit from attack speed. The problem with MT in buff game modes is easy to understand. Global buffs means that damage dealers do more damage while getting more healing from healers. But for MT, they only get half of the bonus. They can reach up to 10k plus HP, but they still recover HP at the fixed number. Sure, there are other buffs that they can benefit more from, but at the end of the day, their sustain balance is harder to maintain than others. In IS5, playing the Lamp of Wishes with Entelechia would take you 2 more wish fulfilled to acquire her hand and books, and under the same buffs, her ability to tank or deal damage to bosses is just not good enough to justify her pick. Most of the time, you would put Holderer from the guard voucher instead to do the similar job. It is in IS6 that things took a turn. Her flexible AoE high hit count skill 2 absolutely dominated against all the damage based gimmicks, and she's serviceable as a secondary damage. The reason I decided not to overhype her is that I think she's still not in the top pick category, and the thing with pre-expansion IS is that they are not here to stay. For debuff game modes, her DPH and range are not looking great. Reaper's flimsiness is not helping either, so outside of situations like extreme damage instance gimmicks or attack debuffs where no one can deal viable damage, I just don't see her getting any performance. My complaint with her numbers are mostly the HP inherit and guaranteed damage scale in skill 3. Could have made this skill much more better. Full analysis, if you ask me, there are not really a lot of shining spots for her, and her problems are indeed concerning. Keywords for gameplay would be the damage instance countermeasure and skill 2's ability to empower Hala drops. But being a lane holder with issues tied to both damage and sustain is certainly not a good news. She doesn't deal DPH beyond the 2000 mark in the grand year of 2025. That's a big problem. For schedule and meta, her IS6 performance stems mainly from the need for dealing with damage instance-based enemies, the less attack speed-oriented meta, and the rise of summons who can bear her skill to Scythe. But at the same time, it's not like she's irreplaceable in that role. You have Ethan's skill 1, Ascalon, and many others to do that job. With the arrival of the upcoming expansion 1, it's still unknown whether or not she'll have the continued presence in the pick draft. We don't know if she'll become the Ascalon of IS6, so better not bet your polls just for this part. Not to mention much more important pieces that are game-changing in the game mode are well on their way in the coming months. That's gonna be it for this episode. Thank you all for watching until the end. I'll look into updating module related stuffs next, so stay tuned for that. See you soon in the next video then. Bye bye.